The Millennium Falcon from Star Wars.
Why didn't you outrun him? I thought you said this thing was fast.
Watch your mouth, kid, or you're gonna find yourself floating home.
What's that flashing?
You're losing the reflector shield. All strap yourselves in. I'm gonna make a jump to light speed.
But what's interesting is there's another thing that's nearby, another object, and it's a smaller disc-shaped object that's nearby, and both have a rigid tail or drag marks that are more than 400 meters, about 437 yards long, for those of you who aren't metrically inclined.
Like myself.
Me too. Their size is distinctive, and their shape as well, and it generates peculiar theories. Like what? What is it?
Well, that's the question. So there's been, like I said, the past 10 years, there have been different claims on this thing. Some skeptics say, you know, when you do sample studies, which they have on some of the rock, because it's essentially a stone formation. So I don't know how it could be a spaceship if it's a stone formation, but maybe it was a model. You know, maybe it was something like you would see with the Stonehenge. Maybe it was a memorial like we would see today, where something is made out of brick or stone.
So it's definitely made out of stone?
Right, so this was made out of some type of stone, and they've done some studies on it, and they find that it does have some natural elements to it. But then you have people saying, well, so you have other geologists say, well, this is a natural formation. You have others saying, no, it can't be a natural formation, for all the reasons that I and you just mentioned. So the fight goes on with this one, and I know it's hard to explain if you haven't seen the picture, but again, just think of the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. The picture looks like that, so how would something in stone be that shape sitting on the bottom of
I don't know that they actually got down there and tested it, because they've just used sonar images, and they potentially are miscalibrated side scan sonar images, and we perhaps need future exploration with better equipment to finally solve the mystery. I don't think they know it's stone.
They've come across some different facts about it, but it's all disputed. That's the thing about this one. And the interesting thing about this, I know we said ancient aliens, and this is 10 years ago, so you're probably wondering, what the heck are you talking about? It's 10 years ago, it's not ancient. But this structure itself, we don't know how old it is, and we don't know how it got there. So that aspect, yes, this could actually be an ancient structure, because it's just sitting on the bottom of the Baltic Sea, made out of some type of stone formation.
Yeah,
so
it's about 300 feet, so they could reach it, 91 meters. But the second object, Stephen,
yes,
is more closely resembling a lumpy eggplant or blueberry muffin sprouting what looks like an owl's head.
now that's an image.
Do I need to say more?
A blueberry owl. I don't know.
That definitely sounds like an alien thing.
It's very odd. So again, you can see that picture, some different renderings of it. We'll have the sonar picture on there, as well as like an artist rendering of what it would look like, supposedly according to the sonar picture. And make up your mind on 850WFTL.com. We search the UAP blog. Again, we have all the other podcasts on there, but we also will have these pictures up of everything that we're talking about.
It definitely looks man-made. But speaking of man-made and stone, I want to talk about something that's right here in our own backyard, the Coral Castle. It was built in 1936, so this would be, what, during the war.
Yeah, just about, yeah.
In Florida City by Edward Leedskallen, and he was only 5 feet tall, and he weighed 100 pounds, Stephen, so he's just widow.
Tiny man, he's like a jockey.
He's a tiny man. He could have been a jockey. Now, there was some rumor that he's from Latvia, and he apparently had this 16-year-old girlfriend, and they were going to, I know.
Well, 1936,
then, yeah.
Things are, unfortunately, were different. They shouldn't have been different, but...
Well, then she was young,
yeah.
And he wanted to marry her, and apparently she dumped him, so he moved to Florida and was just totally forlorn, so he decided to build the Coral Castle to pay homage to her and his love for her. So they say, because there's this Sweet 16 device, and they believe that it had, some nod to her. But anyway, there's a guy that went down there. It's in where is it? Where did I say?
Yeah, I think it's in Homestead.
Yeah, it's in Florida City Homestead area, which is way south of Miami. But as we record this, today is the 29th anniversary of Hurricane Andrew, which hit about the same spot. And Coral Castle, weathered it just fine.
Yeah, that's true.
Amazing. But here's David. He's this guy that visited Coral Castle.
Right here we have the 9-ton gate. Originally, the slightest touch would move it, but the barriers gave out a few years back, and now you can't even budge it. Oh, yeah. That's some great engineering. Good going, Ed.
Yeah, Ed, thank you. But apparently this area is on the United States National Register of Historic Places.
You know, it's funny because I've never actually seen this in person, and I don't think we've ever mentioned it before, but Karen and I do this podcast from South Florida. So we're South Florida based here. So again, when we say local, this is only a couple hours down south for us when we're talking about the Homestead area. And yeah, maybe we should make a field trip one day, do a little
I would
video
like
of
that.
Coral Castle.
Yeah.
I've never seen it in person, but it's one of those things that again is very fascinating because how did he build this, right? How did he get these giant coral stones to be placed how they're placed is the question. This little 5-foot, 100-pound man. By the way, why is it that Florida always attracts the weirdos?
I know.
Something.
There's
total
always a
separate
Florida
question.
connection. And he did most of his work at night, which is weird. So I told you about the girlfriend, Agnes Scuffs. So she was 10 years younger than Ed, and he referred to her as his sweet 16, and she canceled the wedding the day before the ceremony. So he was saddened, and he came here, as I said, to build this coral castle single-handedly, sculpting over 1,100 tons of coral rock as his testimony of lost love.
So you're telling me that this guy is literally saying that he did build this?
He did, and I'll explain how he did it.
Really? So how do you know, Karen? How do you know how this mysterious coral castle with all these different shapes? By the way, if you've never seen this, there's something that looks like a crescent moon. There's a big sphere.
He's able to sculpt the coral.
So he's sculpting now. If you're not familiar with coral, it is he's pretty easy to sculpt. It's
Well-
usually something that can be moved around, of course, in small chunks.
Not really, because Ernest Hemingway has a house in Key West, and his wife wanted to build a swimming pool, and so she hired all these Cubans to dig. Key West is an island built out of coral, and so all these Cubans had to dig the pool, and Ernest Hemingway put a penny at the end of the pool because he said, "My wife spent my last penny
Oh my goodness!
building this pool because it was so difficult to carve out coral."
Really?
Yeah.
So how was this little 5-foot tall, 100-pound Latvian man able to build these giant coral structures?
Okay. So
Please tell me. Out of love, because this is like the Taj Mahal of South Florida.
It is actually. So he quarried logs using tripods made out of tree trunks that stand 25 to 35 feet tall. And he could move the tripods. He had these little devices that would move the feet of the tripods. And the tripods, with the hoist, were able to lift the rocks. And coral limestone rock can be cut with a wood saw. I don't know if you knew that. And then he had wedges and a flywheel. So the wedges he would put, just the same as the Egyptians did with the pyramids, they pound in the wedges along
Right.
in a line, and then you could hear it as you were pounding when it was going to crack off.
Huh.
And they would crack off. And then he was able to sculpt it with this flywheel contraption. And a 6-foot stone chisel he had.
Wow.
He had weights, levers, rolling surfaces. He built a multitasking sculpting machine
my gosh.
powered by car batteries. He had this whole bunch of car batteries, and that's how he lit it up at night because it's hot in Florida.
Sure.
So he was too
Yeah.
hot to build in the day, so he would build at night, and he would light everything up with an aerial electric system using these multiple car batteries. And then he had a Sweet 16 machine that had 16 magnets and a magnetic flywheel. And it was the key to making the wheel part of the reed stick. I don't know any of this, but he was
Wow.
like quite the engineer. And it was self-propelled. And he had a water pumping system, horizontal and vertical, reciprocating saw, and a chipping tool.
Oh my gosh. Where did he get all this?
I know, 1936, that's pretty impressive.
It's very impressive. And again, the reason that we bring this up is not exactly ancient times. It's less than 100 years ago. It's 85 years ago. But you're talking about a guy that's maybe used ancient techniques to build something similar to what we
Right.
see in
Exactly.
ancient times. So is it possible that the ancient people of Timbuktu or anywhere else, Egypt, and we'll get to all that stuff later on in part 2, but is it possible that they used some of these techniques? Would it explain how, say, just for example, because we're talking about today, a place like Timbuktu could have been built? I don't know.
Hey, it's Austin James. Yes, I'm living with diabetes, but it doesn't have to define me. Thanks to the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor, I get real-time glucose readings through 3 Plus sensor is small, easy to wear, giving me the freedom to focus on my life as a parent and a musician. Now this progress. You can get a free sensor at Freestyle Libre US.
Offer available for people who qualify. Visit MyFreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Services to market data on file at diabetes care. For prescription only.
supplied by Volvo, it's much more than a certain. For that road trip you've been needing to take. Certified for small steps.
My radio sucks.
There's so many other unanswered questions when it comes to a place. Like,
Yeah, in terms of Coral Castle, Ed really used magnetic current, which goes back to Pumapunku,
Right.
with the magnetically charged rock,
right.
and that changed polarization. But kind of like Stonehenge, how did they get those huge blue stones from Wales? Well, in this case, how did Ed get the stones from 10 miles away from the quarry? Well, Ed had the chassis of an old Republic truck, and he had a friend with a tractor trailer.
You see, okay, there you go. Number one, there's your first lesson for today. Always have a friend who has a tractor trailer because you never know when you want to build a coral castle.
Yeah, Ed was simple. He didn't have a car back then, but
Right.
he would ride his bicycle 3.5 miles into town for food and supplies.
Oh my.
But many people saw the coral carvings being moved along Dixie Highway,
Really?
and no one ever knew what he was doing. It was like all this crap was going on behind walls at night. Like, are there aliens helping this guy?
Well, that was always the question, right? Were they using some type of anti-gravity technology like we talk about, possibly being used during the ancient times? Because otherwise, how else could they move these giant stones that are thousands and thousands of pounds? Now, for Ed, Mr. Latvian Ed here, he had advantages that the ancients did not have. He may have used some ancient techniques like we spoke about there, but they didn't have tractor trailers.
No,
They
yeah,
didn't
he
have
had
pickup trucks, means to move things at great distances without having to put things on a log and take you 20 years to move it a mile.
Well, he was only a fourth grade education,
Is that right?
and he built an AC current generator. He was like a Tesla.
My
Nikola
gosh.
And it remains it's on display there at Coral Castle. And because there are no records from witnesses on how he built it, it's baffled engineers and scientists. And his secret of construction have also been compared to Stonehenge and the pyramids. But in 1951, he got sick.
Uh-oh.
And he put a sign on the door of his castle saying, going to the hospital, took a bus to Jackson Memorial in Miami, and died 3 days later in his sleep at
Wow.
the age of 64.
Oh my gosh.
His nephew then from Michigan took over and inherited the castle in 1953. He, shortly before his death, sold the castle to a family from Illinois. So it's been handed around, but it's still, like I said, it's on the National Registry of Historic Sites.
And it's still a running, I guess you could say, type of tourist attraction where people can go and check it out and see this work that is,
Let's turn and snooze. Yay.